to the Arts, Parks, Health, Aging, and Los Angeles River Committee. I am joined by my colleagues Joe Buscaino, Gil Cedillo, and Tom LaBonge. And this is a regular meeting of this committee, and we will commence. Mr. Lidd. We will commence with item 1.
Item number 1, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Robert Vincent to El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument Authority for the term ending June 30th, 2017.
And before you come up, Mr. Vincent, we do have one public comment card on item 1. And truth be told, I can't necessarily read this name, but someone filled out to comment on item 1.
Well, it's Mr. Herman.
Maybe Herman.
Mr. Herman. He may be outside, Sergeant.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and have Mr. Vincent come to the front then.
I mean, really, how can you read that name?
I can't.
That's how he writes it when he comes to the city council.
So that time came and went. Mr. Vincent, welcome.
Thank you.
And please have a seat.
Thank you. Sir, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. And so you have been appointed by our mayor to the El Pueblo Commission, and please give us a little bit about your background and some of your thoughts.
Sure. I'm a second-generation Angelino. I attended USC, where I had a double major in urban planning and theater. I have been very involved in the community in the North San Fernando Valley. I developed an affordable housing development called Tupper Tobias Village, and we developed a daycare center, which was given to the city for use as a daycare center. Presently, I own a real estate brokerage firm, and I'm focused on continuing to develop affordable and environmentally sensitive housing.
And Mr. Vincent, we were chatting before the committee hearing started, and you had quite an interesting background in terms of your close association growing up to El Pueblo. If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
My grandfather, Robert Montano, who was kind of known as one of the best cabinet makers in Los Angeles with all 10 fingers. He lived close to the Pueblo, so I grew up there. I would frequently go with my family for lunches at El Luz del Dia. It's an important part of our living history in the city and as a community. And so it's always been a real important part of Los Angeles to me and my family.
And lastly for me, what kind of experience do you think in your professional and personal life could you bring to bear for the benefit of this commission?
Well, my background in real estate, urban planning, there's a number of issues that have long affected the Pueblo, and one of them is balancing both preserving the living history of the Pueblo and upgrading and creating adequate facilities for those people that are coming to visit it. For example, the upgrading of the restroom situation. Parking is always an issue. And the exciting possibilities of the restoration of the Siqueiros mural, and which are only going to serve to bring more people down there, put more pressure on it. I would like to make the art of the city accessible to as many people, as easily accessible to many people as possible.
Terrific. Thank you. Colleagues? Mr. LaBonge.
I just want to wish you well. I just want to ask you, will you be participating in the walk this year?
Which walk?
Los Pobladores?
Absolutely.
Okay, and where does that start?
At the Pueblo?
No, it starts at the Mission, San Gabriel. So it's a trick question. I got you. I'm going to vote for you. But it starts at the Mission. 44 people walk 9 miles from the Mission San Gabriel to the Pueblo, and it was started. Willard Hunter was a gentleman from Claremont, California, who helped recreate it during our city's bicentennial in 1881. And now it's a tradition that has been going on and on and on. And I think it's a wonderful thing. The thing I want to try to do, and as the general manager of this department here today, I want to see you and try to get the walk through the campus at Cal State University of Los Angeles to try to get the university involved. you walk straight down Valley Boulevard, but everybody says you can't come off Valley, but it's still an opportunity to look at, and I wanted to mention that to the general manager as well as yourself.
A close friend of our family's, Zorthian, who passed away
Uh-huh.
a few years ago, had been very closely associated with the blessing of the animals that
Right.
had at the
Those are great events, all of them.
great event.
Last thing, I want a bike rental facility there. I've been asking for years. I only got 10 months. I don't want to come back and haunt you, okay? But there should be a bike rental facility. Cities around the country are putting bike facilities all over, and if you could champion that. I want to try to see us connect more to the Civic Center. The wide sidewalks between the Sanchez Street and Aliso, and also right here at the Civic Center should be connected. You could have little artisan areas, just a thought. I'll walk it with you sometime. And lastly, next to the Chinese American Museum, with permission of Mr. Sadi, I want a Yang Chow South, because it needs a good time. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Cedillo.
You don't need my permission for Yang Chow South.
All right, good job.
Done.
There are a couple of things, though. Cycling is very important. It's very organized and vocal, 1% to the population. But for the rest of the 99%, there is one aspect that's very important to all of us, and that's just public restrooms.
Yes.
And there needs to be a master plan for the entire city. You can't have public space without public restrooms. If you don't have accommodations, people go home. It's that simple. And so... You're supposed to turn this off, Tom.
My fault.
So, public restrooms, you're supposed to... we need a master plan for them. And so at Pueblo, the facilities there are very inadequate.
Yes.
And so... And given the population, it is core to tourism, and it's just inadequate. And so we've got to do a lot of work on that.
Absolutely. The problem is compounded by lack of facility and the fact that it's also a lot of homeless overuse the facility and make it unavailable a lot of time for the general public. So it is a very difficult.
And then we have ADA compliance, which is not an option. We have to comply with ADA. And so, I mean, I want to put these at the top of your agenda when you come into the commission. And then finally, as the council member said, we've got to start thinking of how we link this to the core of the Civic Center. And it should be one continuous stream here. It's an incredible place, and we've got to figure out how to make it continuous. And there's discussions about covering the freeway, and we should think about that.
I'm sorry, covering the freeway in what manner?
Yeah, that we cover the freeway. That we,
Go so we could drive over. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep, great public space there. We have a park over on top. Capping, tomato. Yes. So we'll need your leadership in that area.
I am all for creating linkages. I think some of with the freeway system, while it's been absolutely essential, has also cut up the city in a lot of ways that's diminished neighborhoods. And I think that's a great idea, being able to have within eye shot and walking distance through it across was a wonderful way to connect those two really important parts of the city.
Yep, we can use that. You can make a park. We can have a farmer's market, organic food, organic products.
Wonderful.
Terrific. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Vincent, for agreeing to serve. Alvera Street is very near and dear to my heart. Every time my kids come visit me at City Hall, we're sure to visit Pueblo and visit the shops and all the vendors and be sure to also eat lunch down there. Are you, the one thing that we weren't able to do is a visit to the Italian Hall just yet. Are you, we have some personal ties to Italian Hall. That was this part of Pueblo. And are you familiar with Italian Hall?
I am.
Okay. Have you visited Italian Hall just yet?
I haven't in quite a while.
Okay. There's just so much synergy and movement. I encourage you, once you're appointed to and confirmed, to connect with Mariana Gatto and take a tour. We're hoping to open it by the end of this year, if not early 2015.
As a museum?
Yes.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Terrific. So, colleagues, unless there are objections, I say that we move this nomination forward to the full City Council without objection. All right. So moved. Congratulations, Mr. Vincent. We'll see you in the full council chamber.
Thank you all very much.
And just for the sake of diligence here, we'll give this one last try. Herman, item number 1. Sergeant Johnson, see if he's outside?
Because there's a lot of people outside.
Okay, so... And colleagues, while we're waiting for him to come forward, I would like to move things around a little bit. What we'll do after Mr. Herman makes his public comment is we will move to item 5. And we have so many comment cards today, I'm going to limit everyone to 60 seconds.
What a shame. Good afternoon, everyone. As you see, 60 seconds is not enough to get a point across other than I was denied and discriminated by the Sergeant of Arms to enter as he left me lying on the floor out in City Hall before coming to this meeting. And the whole point of this is transparency. And if there's no transparency for the public's interest and input, what good are we a part of this committee? We're not even a part of it. And then you bring in all this hoop about having neighborhood councils invited and participation. That's bogus and ridiculous. So the next time in the future when you decide to hold a committee such as this, that's important to those of us who love public services, parks, recs, and all the things that come in tied to it, I hate to say this, but you guys are working in the negative interest of the public when you don't provide participation for people who are disabled because you would rather discriminate and have lawsuits come against the city and pay out to those who you do bad to. Thank you.
And with that being said, item 5, please.
Item number 5, Los Angeles Department of Aging report relative to grant funds from the California Department of Aging and related agreements to include the Echo Park Mini Multipurpose Senior Center. Additionally, subsequent to the announcement agenda, there is a supplement here submitted by the department. who will elaborate.
Thank you. And I understand we have Jake Wood from the Department of Aging and perhaps a colleague, is it Jennifer? Please come up. Welcome. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. My name's Jacob Wood, and I'm the contract manager of the Department of Aging, and we're here seeking approval of routine funding of the Older Americans Act services to be delivered by service providers throughout the city of Los Angeles for this this current fiscal year, 2014-2015.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ware. I'm the planning director for the Department of Aging, and also encompassed in the receipt of these awards is funding for the mini Mpc in the Echo Park area.
Okay. And would you mind elaborating a little bit on that for the benefit of my colleagues?
$450,000 have been allocated for the Echo Park Mpc, which will provide a scaled-down array of all of the senior services and caregiver services that we provide through the other MPCs within the city that are also provided citywide.
Thank you. And let me just state for the record that the Echo Park Senior Center was negotiated as part of a project for a new high school that was constructed during the Great Recession. The city has never before had funding to actually bring the center there, but through the budget process, we identified funding to create the senior center. It's badly needed. The area is bereft of an adequate senior center with services. The facility is there, and we will now, for the first time, have funding to actually manage the facility and provide these services to seniors in Echo Park. It's going to be it's at the Sandra Cisneros Learning Center, right on Alvarado, near Sunset at Mohawk. And it'll draw from a large area encompassing anywhere from historic Filipino Town, Westlake, toward downtown, Echo Park, Silver Lake. So it's a wonderful new facility, and I want to thank the Department of Aging both of you, Laura Trejo, for all of your work to make this, bring this forward.
St. Barnabas is a provider.
Is it St. Barnabas? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Terrific, thank you. Call.
Move it.
Second.
All right, I think we're, without objection, we are moving this forward. And let me just read for the record, though. Approve the Department of Aging's recommendations with the revised attachment before us to clarify, for clarity, for the total amendment amount for each service provider. And this document clarifies that, as I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us, and there were no comment cards for that item, and that brings us to item 4, and we'll go ahead and have the public, actually, we're going to have the presentation, then we'll have public comment. So I'd like to, Mr. Lidd, please.
Item 4, motion O'Farrell Labange relative to requesting the Los Angeles Food Policy Council to provide a status report in connection with priority projects and initiatives described in the Good Food for All agenda report.
And I believe we have Alexa Delwich and
Claire Fox.
and Sarah?
Claire.
Claire Fox. Okay. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you for the opportunity to share our work with you today. My name is Alexa Delwich, and I am the Managing Director for the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. And here with me today is Claire Fox, Director of Policy and Innovation. The Los Angeles Food Policy Council is a collective impact initiative working to make Southern California a good food region for everyone, where food is healthy, affordable, fair, and sustainable. It's an independent nonprofit that was created by the City of Los Angeles in 2011. Through cross-sector collaboration, public, private, and nonprofit leaders connected to the food system work together to develop solutions that comprehensively address local economic development, worker equity, environmental stewardship, individual and community health, and health disparities in underserved communities. A 40-person leadership board from across all sectors of the food system, along with the LA Food Policy Council staff, serve as the backbone for the organization, and together we guide the strategic priorities of the organization and convene 6 high-functioning multi-stakeholder working groups to advance policy initiatives. Additionally, we have an active network of about 300 partners.
Across North America, there's about 270 food policy councils, and over the last 3 years, the LA Food Policy Council has become recognized as one of the largest and most effective in the country, and this is due to the commitment, dedication, creativity, and willingness of our local partners to work together to transform our food system. And we have here with us today many of our amazing partners who are the heart and soul of our organization. So if you're here with us today with the LA Food Policy Council, please stand up, and we'll briefly recognize everyone. I think we might have some folks outside as well. Some of our leadership board members are here today, including Michael Flood, who is the CEO of the LA Regional Food Bank and the chair of the Los Angeles Food Policy Council, Dr. Paul Simon, Director of Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention at the LA County Department of Public Health, David Binkle, who is the Food Services Director of Los Angeles Unified School District. We also have Mary Lee, Deputy Director of the National Nonprofit Policy Link, Francesca De La Rosa, Director of Policy and Strategic Alliances at Works and the Chair of the Urban Agriculture Working Group, Matt Sharp, who is a local leading expert on federal nutrition benefits, Leah Ross, Marketing Expert and Chair of the Sustainable Seafood LA Working Group, Miguel Luna, Executive Director of Urban Semillas. Those are our leadership board members who are here, and we have several working group and coalition partners that I'd like to just quickly mention. Lauren Akiem and John Guevara from the LA Alliance for a New Economy, Michelle Udiajora from Hunger Action LA, Michelle Wood from LA County Department of Public Health, Jackie Sauceda Rivera from Sustainable Economic Enterprises LA, Eileen Ignacio from API Obesity Prevention Alliance, Alfred Mata from California Center for Public Health Advocacy, and our staff, Hanfan Chow, Anisha Hingorani, Colleen McKinney, Esther Park, and our awesome interns, Sammy Taylor and Rachel Horst. I wanted to acknowledge everyone because thank you for being here, and our work is represented by this collective impact work. So now we're going to provide you with a brief summary of our work to date, and we've provided some briefing documents so you can follow along.
Wonderful. I just want to say welcome to everyone who is attending and who stood and took the time out of your busy day to come here and show support.
I just want to ask a quick question. Where's Mr. Binkelman? LA Unified.
He might be in the hall.
All right, that's okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So what we're going to do is for each of our working group and key issue areas, we'll provide you with a key achievement in the last year, current priorities, and the potential role that the city can play in supporting a more equitable and sustainable food system. And these priorities are reinforced in the Planning Department's draft Plan for a Healthy LA document, as well as UCLA Vision 2021, and we were honored to participate in both of those projects. And our expert members who are here today can answer any questions that you may have after our presentation.
Okay, so we'll start by first highlighting our Good Food Purchasing Program. And under Committee Chair O'Farrell's incredible leadership to facilitate implementation of the city's Good Food Purchasing Policy that was developed by the Los Angeles Food Policy Council and sponsored by Councilman Koretz, the City of LA's Recreation and Parks Department and the Los Angeles Unified School District partnered to provide an anticipated 4.5 million free, high-quality, nutritious lunches to low-income youth this summer. The program was a huge success, with fresher, tastier, and more nutritious lunches served across the cities. We thank you so much for that.
Thank you, and I swear I didn't have this item for just to hear that compliment. I swear to you, but thank you so much.
Additionally, last year, through Los Angeles Unified School District's commitment to the purchasing policy, as reported by the LA Times, the school district was able to redirect approximately $12 million in fruit and vegetable purchases to local growers. They created 150 jobs in supply chain jobs in processing and manufacturing in LA County and helped to save the livelihoods of an alliance of 31 small growers in San Bernardino County. Our goals this year are to expand the program to other major institutions across the city and the county and to leverage the buying power of these institutions to transform supply chains, much as the example of LAUSD demonstrated. The city could consider the following steps to support the program: continue to support the participating city departments and the school district to meet and exceed the benchmarks outlined in the policy, encourage other city food purchasing departments to participate, such as the police department, zoo, airports, and help recruit other large institutional food purchasers serving high-need populations, such as hospitals, schools, and municipal agencies throughout Los Angeles to adopt the policy.
We also have a very active healthy food retail and food access, food equity working group, and their major achievement in the last 2 years was the creation of the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network. This is a resource network and platform for bringing business and leadership development training to small stores and neighborhood markets in low-income food desert neighborhoods to help them become successful healthy food retailers. We've trained over 200 small stores and food entrepreneurs at 5 multilingual trainings covering topics such as managing fresh foods, profitability strategies, marketing, and store design. And we were honored to have Councilmember Price, who is a member of this committee, as one of our keynotes, and he's supporting several market makeover projects in his district as well. The goal of that working group now is to address food access disparities in LA by increasing the number of neighborhood markets and small stores carrying healthy food, as well as providing economic development and planning incentives to other healthy food retailers to open up in neighborhoods where that service is direly needed. Some steps that the city can consider is to dedicate city staff personnel to a healthy food business team that could provide concierge desk services to help expedite the permitting, land assembly, and development of healthy food retail in underserved neighborhoods. This team could also have an urban agriculture specialist, as there's great need for that as well. The city could reestablish the corner market conversion program, modeled after the former CRA LA's program, to provide facade improvements, microfinance, and business development to neighborhood markets for full-scale store conversions.
A key achievement of the Farmers Market for All Working Group was the members' role in expanding electronic benefit transfer access to an additional 12 markets across Los Angeles County. Members, including LA County Department of Public Health, Sustainable Economic Enterprises Los Angeles, and Hunger Action LA, achieved this milestone by providing very intense technical assistance and peer-to-peer mentoring to the market managers. Members also provided technical assistance to support the opening of farmers markets in Compton and Inglewood's first farmers market slated to open this fall. And they've developed a strong partnership with Department of Public Social Services to help ensure CalFresh recipients know where they can use the benefits. The working group's goal in the coming years is to achieve universal acceptance of EBT and WIC at all farmers markets in the city of LA. Currently, only about 40% of the 72 farmers markets in the city accept electronic electronic benefit transfer as a form of payment, and less than 50% accept WIC. The city could consider the following steps to support this goal: requiring CalFresh EBT acceptance for farmers market sites that utilize public assistance, such as publicly held property; take proactive steps to market and expand the availability of market match incentives. Market Match is a hugely successful public-private program administered by Hunger Action LA and CLA that encourages people to make healthy choices by providing shoppers matching funds when they use their CalFresh benefits to purchase fresh produce at participating markets. And it's reported that EBT usage has gone up by about 25% in the markets that have the program.
Urban agriculture. We have a very vibrant urban agriculture working group. Last year we saw the successful passage in City Council of the Edible Parkways motion introduced by Council President Herb Wesson, and this authorizes the growing of certain kinds of food in residential parkways without a permit. Moving forward, the urban agriculture working group is prioritizing support for the transformation of vacant and blighted land in low-income neighborhoods into community serving and food growing spaces. Some ways that the city can support that is to publish information about vacant city-owned parcels, to highlight opportunities for new gardens and urban farms, and create a streamlined system so that community-based organizations can lease those parcels. Additionally, the city can work with the county to establish urban agriculture incentive zones, which under AB 551 would grant lower property taxes to private landholders who would like to open up their vacant parcels for food growing. We've also been involved on the issue of food waste, we're honored to be a part of the Don't Waste LA Coalition, which is led by LA Alliance for a New Economy, and through that we've participated in the development of the highest environmental standards in the Zero Waste LA exclusive franchise system, which is a landmark piece of legislation that you all voted for that really does serve as a national model. Through that work, we've led a working group of environmentalists to support forward-thinking language on organic and food waste management in the recently issued request for proposals released by the Bureau of Sanitation. So our goal with that moving forward per that RFP is, first, we'd like to see that all food scraps are collected and recycled into a product that we can use, whether it's biogas, compost, livestock feed, or fuel. And second, we support the city's zero waste goals of 90% waste diverted from landfills by 2025. Some ways to do that with regards to organic and food waste is to promote 100% green bin participation in the commercial and multifamily housing sectors, expand the number of restaurants that participate in the food waste collection program, broker partnerships between schools, community organizations, and food-producing industries such as restaurants and grocery stores so that we could do super clean stream compost and food recycling pilots, and support the growth of local recycled organic waste industries and jobs. We've also been involved in an effort led by Councilmember Price and Councilmember Huizar to explore creating a permit system for sidewalk food and merchandise vending. Our goal within this work is we'd like to see a clear pathway for a citywide permit system for sidewalk vending as a way to support viable economic opportunities for entrepreneurs, as well as a way to increase healthy food options in underserved areas. So our recommendation, in conjunction with a citywide permit system for sidewalk vendors, is to create a healthy food vending program that offers incentives to qualified healthy food vendors. And examples of incentives could be a lowered permit fee or creating exclusive healthy food vending zones around schools, around hospitals and medical clinics, as well as establishing perhaps healthy corners in food desert, high-need areas where only healthy food vendors would be allowed.
And finally, food security. The most effective anti-hunger strategy is a job that pays a family-supporting, livable wage. Increasing the purchasing power of residents is fundamental to combating food insecurity. The city could consider advancing anti-poverty and wage policies that raise the wage floor for all Angelenos, ensure the preservation of positions and programs in city departments that distribute federal funds for anti-poverty and anti-hunger programs. The city could also become a more active partner with of public, private, and nonprofit organizations to bolster enrollment in public assistance programs. Currently, only 55% of eligible residents receive CalFresh benefits in LA County. And finally, to require healthy food retailers, farmers markets, and similar enterprises that receive public assistance to accept CalFresh benefits. So that's a snapshot of our work, and we know this is a lot of information, but it really reflects the diversity of the work that's happening here in Los Angeles. And our staff and partners are here as a resource to provide additional details if you would like to explore any of them. Chair O'Farrell and committee members, we'd like to thank you for your leadership on these important issues and look forward to working with each of you to advance these priorities and many more, I'm sure, to make Los Angeles the most equitable and sustainable food system in Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. That's quite a snapshot.
It is.
I'd call that hundreds of snapshots. Great work, and thanks for reporting so completely and so thoroughly on your incredible work. I know that in the farmers markets in the 13th that use Market Match, and we're trying to get to where all of them can use it, the attendance has in some instances more than doubled. It's the best deal in town. I can't say enough about that. And then CalFresh, WIC, EBT, all the farmers markets that we approve in the 13th definitely bring those resources to bear, and I think it's just a good policy in general. And lastly, I went to one farmers market and I peddled my way into a smoothie. And it was, so, you can exercise and eat nutritiously at the same time at these farmers markets.
Absolutely.
So I can't say enough good things about them. And then lastly about this is that they don't have to go on city-owned property. We have parcels that are, for one reason or another, sit around undeveloped for years, decades, and we have our nonprofit partners that can indemnify them if it's agreed upon by the property owner. And we shouldn't let just the lack of city ownership of a parcel keep us from pursuing additional community gardens or farmers markets wherever we can place them. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
That's great.
And then before I turn it over to my colleagues, I would just like to, in addition to farmers markets, I think it's an extension of food policy on how we have our concessionaire contracts at all city facilities. So what I'd like to do in the coming 12 months, have reports from the Department of Aging, Recreation and Parks, Library, Disability, Cultural Affairs, the Zoo, El Pueblo, in relation to all of these food service concessionaires that are coming up for renewal within the next 18 months. So we can take a look at having a say in healthy options for families at all these facilities, especially the highly attended facilities like the LA Zoo, Mr. LaBonge. I think it's really important to take a look at that. So
You going to include the airport department
let's include the airport.
and the harbor department?
They don't report to me, but
No, but I think you want to include them. I mean, it's
Let's,
the policy and,
let's
the
work on
harbor
that.
and the convention center.
I'm with you.
Great.
That's. I want to focus on the departments that report to this committee, but then we can do work for the others as well, I think, and let it be known. Thank you so much, colleagues.
I just want to say just a couple of things. I watch people sell food on the street, and I'm concerned about the safety of the motorist, the seller, etc. I'm very cautious on that. I know there was a rage in the 70s and 80s for what we call mini markets, and I'd like to see our planning department come up with a concept that we would take one parking space out of those mini markets, because now they're required to, let's say by code, to have 17 spaces, but take one space that it would be a fruit space, if you would, and then make sure that it's there off the street. Dogs do use the street, and often dogs find wherever they go to, and sometimes fruit is on top of what the dogs have left, and et cetera. I don't want to get graphic, but I think that's something to really look at as far as you create that. And you've been to the farmers market at 3rd and Fairfax? You know how that started? The owner of the land had cows, and the cows got oil on their hoofs, so he started pumping the oil, okay? Now, then, though, he had vacant space, and the farmers of West Los Angeles would park their trucks there in 1934 as an opportunity to sell their goods. Up until 1960, agriculture was the #1 industry in Los Angeles County. So I'm strongly supportive of farmers markets off the streets that have a variety of ways. If you walk in farmers market right now at 3rd and Fairfax, celebrating his 80th anniversary, there's like 118 stalls, 111 are individual people. There's maybe one Starbucks and one Johnny Rockets and one whatever else. But it's all local. And if you could find large parcels and work with the local council office, I don't think we need to hire anybody as much as we have to commit our offices to try to help those who would want to try to achieve what you say. I don't support everything because I have a different concept about the street that maybe you share, and I'm working with the group that's been around, especially the tall fellow, I don't see him here today, who's with the organization that wants street vending changed. But I think there's opportunity, especially when you create space that people come to and gather and could eat fruit and like that. So, and the last thing I would say, a blanket permit or working with the nonprofits, as our chairman said, maybe make it easier for the city to be able to process all these requests that may come on. But if you did start with a zone that you'd want to say is an experimental zone, 2 or 3 in the city, and then move on to them, I think that's a real big, important step for you. Thank you. Last thing, ADA requirements for things in the parkway. I know they didn't even deal with that. ADA is American Disabilities Act, but anything in the parkway that does impede movement may have a challenge, so I'd want to just mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. All right, so seeing as there's no other comment from my colleagues, we do have 3 public comment cards. And Sergeant Johnson, just to make sure that everyone's in this room or out of the room, we have Jake Becklerman and Hannah Hushi, is that right? And then we have someone from the LA Regional Food Bank that did not leave their name. There's no name on this one. And then Leah Ross. Those are the 3 comments on item 4.
I have 2 out in the hallway.
Okay.
Sergeant, is there an overflow room?
That's correct, sir.
Is there a microphone in there?
Yes, correct, sir.
Okay, good.
All right, so those are the 3, and thank you so much. And so I, without objection, approve the motion with instructions that I mentioned, the departments that report to this committee over the concessionaire contracts coming up in the next 18 months.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fox and Ms. Delwich. Appreciate it. And everyone else for joining today. And we're going to have those comments. I guess I should do the comments first.
Sure.
No.
You do it, right?
Yeah. Here to comment on item 4. Okay, Jake Beckleman and Hannah. Is that Hoshe? Is that right? Am I saying that right? And then someone from the LA Regional Food Bank, and then Leah Ross. Those are my 3.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Michael Flood, Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, and also I chair the LA Food Policy Council. Just want to thank you for your interest in this work. The leadership board of the LA Food Policy Council is made up of close to 40 members from a diverse group and is helping the great work of staff. Getting a lot of this work that you've heard accomplished. So I'm just here to thank you for your interest in this work and ask for your continued support of it so we can continue with this good food agenda.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you as well for your work.
And my name is Leah Ross. I am also on the leadership board of the Los Angeles Food Policy Council and a co-chair of the Sustainable Seafood LA Working Group. And again, I'm just here to show my support and answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Ross. And do we have the other card? It's 2 names on this one: Jake Beckelman or Beckerman and Hannah Hushi or Hushi.
I'll step in the room and see if that.
Okay.
Some fruit.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
The question was answered, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So that was that on item 4. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next we're going to take items 2 and 3 together.
Thanks for being here.
And Mr. Lidd, please.
Item number 2, Department of Recreation's Park Report relative to consideration and of recommendation to City Council on the California Environmental Quality Act, Section 21151C appeal by Friends of Griffith Park, the Griffith J. Griffith Charitable Trust, and Sierra Club Angeles Chapter Griffith Park Task Force. RE Environmental Impact Report certification by the Board of Recreation Parks Commissioners for the Griffith Park Crystal Ball Fields project. Also, we have a Department of Recreation's report relative to consideration recommendation City Council on CEQA Section 2115C appeal by Friends of Griffith Park, Griffith J. Griffith Charitable Trust, and Sierra Club Angeles Chapter Griffith Park Task Force, RE EIR Mitigated Negative Declaration certifications by the Board of Recreation Parks Commissioners for the Performing Arts Center project.
Thank you, Mr. Lidd. And colleagues, this is for nothing other than the appeals is what we're hearing today, not the details of the proposed projects, simply the appeals, and we're going to hear from Recreation and Parks, and then we'll take public comment. And folks, there are probably 60 or 80 public comment cards between the two items, so you might want to be thinking during the presentation, if you filled cards out for 2 and 3, maybe combining the 2 when you get your time at the microphone. Otherwise, we're going to be here a long time. So I just think about that ahead of time. Thank you. And we have Kathy Santo Domingo and Neil Drucker and City Attorney Timothy McWilliams, I understand. Please begin.
Good afternoon, committee members. Kathy Santo Domingo, Planning, Construction, and Maintenance Branch of the Department of Recreation and Parks. We're here today for the 2 projects, both at Griffith Park. The first project is the Griffith Park Crystal Springs Ball Fields. This is a competitive Proposition K project for which the department applied for. The second project is another Proposition K project. It's a specified project for the Performing Arts Center, which is basically the construction of a stage at the old zoo and all of the ADA amenities associated with that. We've been working with the council office and the Bureau of Engineering and the community in terms of outreach efforts to define these 2 projects over the last 4 years. We've held numerous community meetings. I believe under Proposition K, we did a minimum of 3 community meetings for each of these projects, for which our project managers, Bureau of Engineering, and their designers sat with the community members and incorporated comments from the community to develop these projects. So as those scopes of work were defined, we basically went to 2 processes. For the ball fields, we determined that an environmental impact report was necessary, and that was prepared by Bureau of Engineering and their consultants. And for the Performing Arts Center, we basically prepared a mitigated neg deck prepared by Recreation and Parks staff with consultants through Recreation and Parks. Those 2 actions were approved by the Board of Recreation and Parks, and that's those 2 actions are being appealed, and that's why we're here before you today.
Drucker.
Neil Drucker, Bureau of Engineering, Recreation and Cultural Facilities Program Manager, and I think Kathy pretty much summed it up. I just did want to say that, as Kathy indicated, the Bureau of Engineering and the Department of Recreation and Parks and our consultants work together with the city attorney and various city staff to respond to all of the claims made in both of the appeals, and that based on our review and analysis, the Bureau of Engineering recommends that the committee deny the appeal in both cases and adopt the findings and determination of the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners.
All right, thank you. So do you feel that we need to hear from Timothy McWilliams at this time, or should he just be around to answer questions?
I think so, unless he has any additional information. I think, listen to the comments, and then city staff will be available to address any comments.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'd like to move right to the comments since there are so many. Let's see, I'm going to read through item 2 comments, and then I'll go to item 3 comments. If you filled out, as I mentioned earlier, for each card, you might want to think about combining them, and we can only give you 60 seconds. There are just so many of these, so I appreciate your cooperation there. First, we have Charlotte. Feichers. Okay, my apologies. I'm really bad with cursive writing. Sorry about that. And then we have Stephanie Lopez, followed by, and then followed by Delphine Trowbridge. Those will be our first three speakers. Thank you, Ms. Charlotte.
I'm part of the Sarah Club, but just as a general person, I'm for the appeal because of several reasons. Primarily because we don't want the Griffith Park torn up like that. But to begin with, to have a ballpark there is not near the population centers, so the kids would have to travel long distance on the freeway 134 that is jammed all the time anyway. Another deal I would like to say is that I think the city, with all of its financial problems, doesn't need more development in the park. The maintenance would be a burden, and in general, I'm just opposed to change.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Lopez?
We need to stop ruining Griffith Park. There's already way too much going on in the park. That's not what Colonel Griffith designated it for. He wanted to leave it to us as natural, wide open space to go hiking, appreciate the wilderness, the wildlife. There's way too many people bringing in way too much pollution, displacing wildlife. P-22, as we all know, got sick from eating rat poisoning caused by pollution left in the park that brought rats in. There's already an existing ball field in Crystal Springs that's rarely used. Why can't we just use that? And there's also picnic tables there that are used year-round. The last committee meeting, it was not known where those picnic tables would be moved to. It was not known where the mature trees were going to be relocated to. We should just leave this land alone. For someone to just want to go in and create ball fields just to put their name on something in Griffith Park is not only extremely selfish, but completely unconscionable. We need to leave our park alone.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. We're going to have Delphine Trowbridge. You will be followed by Evelyn Alexander, Lucinda Phillips, and Joseph Young. Ms. Trowbridge.
I'm in favor of the appeal of the EIR. Yesterday, I attended a political event at the Sierra Club that was raising money and also giving awards to different people in the community, and it was at the home of David Nahai. And our mayor, Garcetti, got up and he quoted John Muir saying that we have a need for more wilderness. And so I feel that giving up open space in our parks, which should be preserved and be kept as a wilderness, is not a good idea.
Thank you, Ms. Trowbridge. Ms. Alexander?
Yes, I'm also in favor of the appeal. I think what it is now is really important for families to get together. I've seen family groups there. I think when we need ball fields, they may be closer to where people live than where it is now, and I would like to see it remain as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Lucinda Phillips, followed by Joseph Young, followed by Al Mosia. And I think Lucinda Phillips maybe isn't here yet. I'll put her card to this. Oh, please.
I'm just handing.
Okay.
Hi, council members. My name is Lucinda Phillips. I'm on the board of the Friends of Griffith Park. I've just given the clerk some photographs that I'd like you all to take a look at regarding the Crystal Springs picnic area. If you could just pass them on, Sir, Councilmember Sedillo. Could you just pass this through?
I'm going to read them and then I pass them.
Okay. So I was going to give a little description of these photographs. What we're showing here is the historical nature, in both terms, of the Crystal Springs picnic area. We've got some photographs here of a large oak in Crystal Springs picnic grounds in Griffith Park circa 1910, and also another photograph in 1917 of the sycamore, and also a photograph of the heritage sycamore, the same one, in 2013. This tree will be taken down, even though it is a heritage tree, will be taken down for the ball fields. Then we also have photographs of various user groups, large multi-generational groups sitting in the
We'll
grass
give you 20 more
area.
seconds since we lost some time.
So there's large multi-generational groups sitting in a grassy area, people hanging hammocks, watching their kids playing on the playground, other families sitting out on the grass on blankets. The group reservation area is heavily used throughout the year. This group has piñatas ready to hang. The family gathering under the shades of the mature trees, the shade of a big tree for a large picnic area, and kids painting Easter eggs on a blanket in the shade of the trees. And the Heritage Sycamore Shades, a family picnic which has a bouncy castle and slides. So this area is used heavily by children. And we also have a final photograph of a baseball field in Crystal Springs which is locked and empty and not used. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Joseph Young, followed by Al Mogia, followed by Claire Darden.
Good afternoon, council members and committee members. My name is Joe Young, and I'm co-chair of the Sierra Club's Griffith Park Task Force. Yesterday, I drove by Marina Del Rey Middle School, which is a half block from where I live in the city of Los Angeles. They have 17 baseball backstops there. Not a single one being used on a nice, sunny Sunday afternoon, nor is it very often used for baseball. Occasionally it's used for soccer, but I've seldom seen baseball done there, and none yesterday. I've also looked down at North Atwater Park from when I'm hiking in Griffith Park, seen nobody there, nobody playing baseball. So my thought is, why shouldn't the city make an extensive survey of all facilities within the city to determine if any new facilities need to be constructed? I'd also like to respond to item 3 while I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay. The old zoo picnic area is unique for families and children because of its grassy slope and old zoo facilities. I've introduced over 1,500 students from Title I schools to Griffith Park, many of them winding up in the old zoo picnic area. It's a wonderful site. Building a permanent stage there will take this unique site out of limits for weekends or weeks, maybe months, like from the end of September through the 1st of November as it is now. Take it out of use. We're going to continue this slicing and dicing of Griffith Park when it's not needed. There are facilities in the city, for example, at the wonderful South Park, the South Park at 51st and Avalon, and at Green Meadows Park, where there are stages and band shells that are not used nearly as intensely as they should be. Why restrict these wonderful showings of Shakespearean plays and musical concerts to Griffith Park? Let the whole city enjoy these facilities.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have Al Mogia, followed by Claire Darden, followed by Allison Cohen.
Good afternoon. My name is Al Mogia. I'd like to say that Crystal Springs is a unique area that serves many people very well, a lot of immigrant families and low-income people. As the city becomes more and more dense, places like Crystal Springs are even more important. Large regional parks can only supply the aesthetics and the open space needed for such a unique setting, and it seems unimaginable that you'd locate 2 additional ball fields in what's already there into a significant number of the area. So that's my basic point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Claire Darden, followed by Allison Cohen, followed by Michelle Black.
Thank you. Good afternoon. 2 youth ball fields at Crystal Springs picnic area, I think, is a bad idea for many reasons, but it's not to be a simple Field of Dreams sandlot project, but a highly organized Little League regulation-sized, strictly operated diamonds with locked gates and all of the bells and whistles of their larger counterparts, resulting in enormous ecological impact in that whole area. Just the bulldozing of 40 mature trees, some protected, should preclude any construction for any reason in this area. Thousands of hardworking Angelenos, many without backyards, have come here
Go ahead and wrap it up.
for generations to relax and enjoy quality family time under its magnificent shade trees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison Cohen, followed by Michelle Black.
Good afternoon, council members. This issue that we're talking about today is no longer a needs issue. It's not a popularity contest. I think we've had multiple committees that have already vetted this project. This is about concurring and having confidence of your colleagues with the Department of Rec and Parks that have already vetted this final environmental impact report. All the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted painstakingly. Everything's been evaluated. There's been tremendous amount of mitigation that's been offered. And the recent July 30th building of BOE report illuminated something new, which was regarding fees for use of these ball fields. Everything has been asked and answered at tremendous taxpayer cost. To throw more money at this project that originally was neg deck and to reanalyze the impacts is a worthless use of taxpayer dollars, with the conclusions being the same.
Thank you. Michelle Black will be followed by George Abrams and Jerry Hans.
Good afternoon, council members. Michelle Black here for appellants, and most everything is in our latest letter, so here's the quick highlights. In certifying the environmental review for the ball fields project, the city failed to adopt an alternative that would avoid or substantially lessen the project's admittedly significant impacts as required by CEQA. The project requires removal of protected trees, as you've heard, and it would also condense one of the only large open picnic areas in Griffith Park. Picnicking is a low-cost activity available to all LA families, and this is a significant recreational loss that has not been analyzed. To avoid these impacts, appellants suggested alternatives and separately configuring the fields, one at Crystal Springs, one at North Atwater. The city rejected these ideas without support. One reason was that North Atwater would have greater noise impacts. It's actually quieter there. And the other is that funding requires co-location of the fields. And if that is true, then the city has pre-committed to the project and precluded the consideration of alternatives that would avoid or lessen impacts without or in violation of the California Supreme Court's decision in Save Terra versus the City of West Hollywood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George Abrams?
You can go first. You can go first.
Okay.
Jerry Hans.
First, okay.
Jerry Hans, President, Friends of Griffith Park. Questions that didn't get real answers. Why has there not been outreach to the very people that will be most affected by this project, the picnickers themselves? We asked that notices of the proposed project and public meetings be posted at the picnic itself. That didn't happen. We asked that renderings of the project design and layout be mounted at the site. Didn't happen. We requested that the fee-based groups that use this area heavily be notified officially by the department. That never happened. Why didn't the city really put its ears to the ground and listen to the people who use Los Angeles' most successful picnic area? Objectives for the project per the Prop K application: restore baseball fields in Crystal Springs. There never were ball fields in Crystal Springs, therefore you can't really restore them. They were more than a mile away, and that was about 60 years ago. Will 2 ball fields increase recreational opportunity for at-risk youth? We think not. 4 acres of open space is more important to Crystal Springs to serve that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. George Abrams will be followed by Mary Button and Marion Dodge.
Yeah, the M&D is inadequate. There's a fair argument that a reasonable range of alternatives has not been considered. And if you push this project through, it's just going to wind up in litigation. The city has an unsuccessful history with inadequate EIRs. It just wasted $1.7 million on the HCPU EIR. And I suggest that you don't waste the taxpayers' money on a lawsuit. Save yourself a headache, and the money you save can build many more ball fields.
Thank you. Mary Button.
Good afternoon. I've been in the Crystal Springs area hundreds of times.
Crystal Springs is the prime picnic spot in Griffith Park. Families and friends, groups large and small, have gathered at this historic site since 1936, and the current users were and are unaware of these ball fields, which will displace them. In the appeal, which was signed by the Sierra Club, the Family Trust, and Friends of Griffith Park, it is stated public notification procedures were inadequate. In 2013, Friends of Griffith Park visited Crystal Springs half a dozen times, and our goal was to let the picnickers and the players there know about the proposed ball fields. We had petitions in hand opposing the ball fields and gathered signatures and comments. It didn't take long to get over 500 written comments. The largest user group of the area is Latino. We came prepared with petitions in both Spanish and English versions. More than half of the 500 signatures we gathered were of the Spanish version. The Colonel was a true visionary when he gave the park to the citizens of LA. It is our duty to respect his wishes. Ball fields are good, but Crystal Springs is not this place for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion Dodge will be followed by Herman and Meredith Hackelman.
I'm Marion Dodge, Friends of Griffith Park. I support the appeal because the EIR was inadequate. The proposed project will not hold up in court. The Hollywood Community Plan EIR was also inadequate. Judge Goodman called the EIR, quote, fundamentally flawed and fatally so. Page 18, the city's failure to recognize that the HCPU was unsupported by anything other than wishful thinking. Page 19, if an EIR fails to include relevant information and precludes informed decision-making and public participation, the goals of CEQA are thwarted and a prejudicial abuse of discretion has occurred. Page 22, an EIR must contain and analyze in depth a range of reasonable alternatives. Page 25, there has been an insufficiently reasoned rush to completion of the EIR process that is clearly contrary to well-established laws as interpreted by the appellate courts. The city's failure to comply with state law in this case costs the taxpayers $1.75 million.
Thank you, Ms. Dodge.
Thank you.
Herman will be followed by Meredith Hackelman and Anne Marie Marla? My apologies.
So as we hear the ineffective policy and the procedure of these programs that you're trying to create regarding the ball fields, the people have spoken. And we're adamant about our conditions that we don't need to destroy habitat just so that you can put a plaque with Mr. LeBon's name on it or Mr. Joe Buscana because you played in sports. We have plenty of areas that need to be improved, especially in Boyle Heights, and Gilbert Cedillo can reflect on that, and even his area. So rather than destroy the natural habitat of what we all love, which are the parks, the places that I go and sit and feel the breeze of the trees and the luscious grass underneath my feet as it rushes against my ear, I say to you, stop this ridiculous plan, listen to the taxpayers, and again, your ADA amenities is just a trick of the game. Put it back and leave it alone. It's our parks, not yours. Thank you.
Meredith Hackelman. I'll put her card to the side in case she comes back later. Ms. Medla, is that right?
Hello. Yes. My name is Anne Marie Madla. I am a resident of Los Feliz in Silver Lake. I am a licensed architect. I have a master's degree in landscape design. I have a son and a husband who play ball in the city of Los Angeles, and one who used to. And I am here to oppose both the appeal for the ball fields and for the Griffith Park stage. I have attended 5 of these meetings in the past already, trying to...
5 meetings?
5. In order to support these 2 projects, and I have seen how these 2, both previously disturbed and totally developed sites, have been haggled over like they're greenfield sites, which they are not. And I want to tell the council that this is our neighborhood park. I live in Los Feliz. This is our neighborhood park.
Thank you, Ms. Medla. Next, we're going to have Mark Malcheri, followed by Emily Goldnuff, followed by William Sloan, MD. Okay, sure.
A little loud, too.
Thank you.
Council members, on TV, we've all seen the sullen doctor come through double doors saying there was nothing we could do to save the patient. The California CEQA statute provides that a lead agency's decision can be appealed to an elected body. 3 appointed commissions and countless public meetings, plus 2 city agencies have already done the due diligence here. And time again, they reached the same conclusion. The issue before this committee isn't whether the project is feasible, viable, or supported by the public. It's whether you concur with the findings of your colleagues on the Rec and Parks Commission. I'm sure the appellants would be delighted if you were to go back and spend even more time and money reviewing, reanalyzing, and reworking this. Retreading ground already carefully covered. It's been said, if you can't convince them, try to confuse them. The appeal is a legal challenge. 73 pages citing court cases, proffering conjecture as fact, using ominous language made for a judiciary courtroom, not for this legislative chamber. Despite that, the concerns raised by both, meticulously addressed by both the EIR and the recent BOE staff report, clearly show the contentions of the appellant's lawyers have been previously asked and answered. Ultimately, I believe the appellants will share some sort of solace in saying we did everything we could to kill these projects. The CEQA appeal process was created to ensure legislative transparency, vanquish any contention of impropriety, and guarantee that you, our elected leaders, carry the full consent of the governed and vested with the authority to make such decisions, definitively do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Emily Goldknop, followed by Dr. William Sloan.
Mitch. I support the appeal and I oppose the ball fields on moral grounds, among other things, health concerns, which are not adequately addressed in the EIR. Maybe an EIR should not address the effects of the environment on the proposed project, but it should. Would you put a ball field in a Superfund site? Then don't put it within 500 feet of the freeway, of the 5 freeway, contrary to county public health suggestions, and they say it should even be farther than that. What's further away than that? Some places that are inadequately considered in the EIR, such as the North Atwater site, Pote Field itself, the far end of Ferraro Fields. I feel that, and people were not adequately consulted who used that site. So I basically feel that the EIR reads like it had a foregone conclusion, and I support the appeal.
Thank you, Ms. Goldknop.
Thank you.
We will have, followed by Dr. Sloan, we have Linda Demers and John Bauman.
Mr. O'Farrell and Tom LaBonge and council members, I'm really pleased to be speaking to you. I'm a doctor in Los Feliz, and I live there. And hiking in the morning with Tom LaBonge and bicycling through the parks is enchanting. I've never lived near a wilderness area like this. On the other hand, my love for baseball is punctuated by my grandson, who was a pitcher for the
local team,
for the John Marshall High School team. So I love baseball. Still, I'm worried about the destruction of the park. I love the wilderness. I've never had that experience before, and I caution you about the building of ball fields in this area that we love as a wilderness park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sloan. Linda Demers.
Hi, I'm Linda Demers. I'm the president of the Los Feliz Neighborhood Council. I've had several opportunities to speak in support of this project. I think it's 5 or 6. I'm not here today to waste your time talking about the merits of the project. I'm here to urge you to accept your CEQA findings, the response to the appeal, to deny this appeal, and please move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bauman will be followed by Catherine Lloyds. I'm sorry. Mr. Bauman.
My name is John Bauman, and I may have put the wrong number on the card. I came to speak to the appeal of the stage. I'm against the appeal, and very simply, I love Griffith Park. I can't imagine an activity that would bring more diverse people to a more beautiful spot with less impact than these performances. There's a lot of great things that happen in the park. There are very few things that I think incorporate the beauty of the surroundings quite as well as these performances do. And I know plenty of people who never go to the park other than to see these performances, who then come back and hike and enjoy it in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauman. Catherine, Louise, does I have that right? And then,
Correct, thank you.
And last call for Meredith Hackelman. Meredith Hackelman. Okay. Catherine?
Several years ago, City Project Director Robert Garcia made a correlation between obesity rates and green space within communities as he took a reporter on a trip to Manhattan Beach, a small community that's developed an emphasis on the importance of green and health. We who live here know Los Angeles is park poor. It's been a sore point for many who believe in the preservation of what little is still available for recreationists in this large metropolis. So instead of eliminating more and more green space, would it not be more prudent for the city to look outside the box and maintain and develop a green habitat in which animals and humans would equally benefit, not just the few privileged among us? Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move right on to comments for item 3, and I know some. What's your name, ma'am? Laura Howe. Okay, I did not come across your card, but come on up, Ms. Howe.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's probably in the wrong stack.
Right.
Yeah. Hi, Laura.
Hi. Hi, my name is Laura Howe. I will speak on both, but I'd like to speak on the first. So it is hard to come here with fresh eyes, I know today, because I have been to at least 10 meetings on this issue. And why am I here? I don't gain financially from this. I don't gain from public glorification. In fact, by just being here, and those of us that have been here have been both bullied and attacked verbally and in paper. So there is a reason why we're here, because we value what every individual here should have the opportunity to have. And that, especially in the troubled youth, is green and open space. Study after study has shown the importance of that, especially in mature and protected trees. What will be lost here is even going to be mitigation trees. So that just runs in the face of what is the point of even mitigating past failures by doing mitigation. It is vital to our ecosystem that we keep this wildlife corridor intact. And I say that they did not do adequate research on alternative spaces, because the LV NOC just threw out a couple ideas. The city did not vet proper things, and why not repurpose land that is either cemented or unused? Why is it not a win-win? Why are we not repurposing land that you talked about, parcels not being used? There should be way more research into repurposing of land as opposed to taking away from more than 20,000 permitted users in that area.
Thank you. Are you also?
Thank you, and I'm also speak to the issue of the.
Okay.
I'm going to hand out a few. I don't know. Some people might have seen this. I'm the volunteer coordinator of Friends of Griffith Park, and I have led over 500 kids in doing plant restoration and graffiti removals, and a large amount within the old zoo. And there are two different issues. I'm for both appeals, but it is really a different issue. We are asking just for at least to do the credit of an EIR, full EIR. This is a wilderness area. There is been multiple wildlife studies done, and this area deserves the credit. I have seen so much going on. There's been no plan for any kind of maintenance, extra maintenance, or park rangers. There's going to be nighttime activities. There's been absolutely no discussion of the absolute numbers of people, and it's hard to come today to compete against Shakespeare, because there's a lot of actors here. But it's not about Shakespeare. Shakespeare is happening. It's about what is going to come after it is built. How many numbers, how many organizations, and how many people. We need an EIR. Thank you.
Laura. All right. Moving to item 3. I don't have any other comment cards on 2. I'm going to move on. We have Alexianne Searle, or Serle. Renee Spahn will be followed by Andre Martin.
I don't actually have a lot to say. You've heard the arguments. I'm against the appeals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm voting for you for mayor.
That is pretty much mine as well. I don't want to waste any more time. I am against the appeals.
Thank you. Andre Martin will be followed by Luis Galindo, Marisa Johnston.
Yes, I'm not going to take too much of your time either. I'm against the appeals and support the renovations in Griffith Park. And I love Griffith Park as a resident of Los Feliz, and I know our audiences love Griffith Park, and I see every night as the audiences, when the lights go down, they clean up their trash and they take care of Griffith Park. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Luis Galindo followed by Marisa Johnston.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Luis Galindo, and I won't take up your time. I am against the appeal as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm a 20-year resident of Los Feliz and Silver Lake, and I'm against the appeal. Please deny the appeal that has gone from the LV Knox all the way up to the approval by the Recreation and Parks Board Commissioners. Thank you.
All right, continuing on item 3, comments. We've got Sarah Crane, or Chrome, followed by, let's see, Laura spoke, followed by Amy Carnes, followed by Stephanie Lopez. Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thanks for hearing us today. I'm just here to voice my support for the projects and against these appeals, and thank you so much for your time.
Hello, my name is Dr. Amy Carnes. I'm an educator and a mother, and have been a longtime supporter of the Independent Shakespeare Company. But I'm also a great lover of Griffith Park. I think it's a gift to the city of Los Angeles. I'm not a native Angelino, and part of the reason why I stay here is the natural beauty of the city. And with a small child and another one soon to come into the world, I want to preserve the beauty of Griffith Park. I want my children to be able to run there, and I want my children to be able to go there and appreciate the arts. I think there are very few places in the city where that can happen, and especially for families with multiple children, it's not always feasible to be able to pay to go to performances, and it's a wonderful service that the Department of Parks and Recreation can offer to the people of Los Angeles. I hope you... I'm against the appeal, so I hope you don't accept the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And please state your name one more time for my benefit.
Amy Carnes.
You're Amy. Okay, thank you. We have Stephanie Lopez, followed by Joseph Colaton, followed by Janice Feinstein.
I'm Stephanie Lopez. I am for the appeal. I am a native Angelino, and I grew up in Griffith Park pretty much. And again, as I said, for the ball fields, I don't want people coming in and displacing wildlife, and I just think, how would you like this stuff built in your backyard? I mean, what's going to come next? A shopping mall? I mean, it's going to be too late by the time we destroy Griffith Park to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Colleton?
Yeah, I'm a performing artist who's appeared with both Griffith Park, Free Shakespeare, and with Symphony in the Glen. The environmental impact of the proposed stage and access ramp is minimal. As been said before, the old zoo is already a very, very developed area. I rise to support the construction of the stage and access ramp and to oppose the appeal.
Thank you, sir. After Janice Feinstein, we will hear from Barbara Ferris and then Michelle Black.
Hello, I'm Janice Feinstein, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I oppose the appeal. I applaud the efforts that have been made to help Independent Shakespeare Company, which I think is a treasure to Los Angeles. I have lived here since 1952, my whole life. I think I'm older than some of the members of this board. I have been out there hiking off and on over the years. I had never heard of the old zoo before. This is using an area that had already been changed and bringing people to it, increasing use of an underused area, I believe, and they had 43,000 people out there. It's something we can all be proud of. I don't know if you've seen, so I brought and will give, if I could hand this in. It's a program with the schedule, so if you haven't been up there to see a play, go see a play. My other visual aid is a ticket. I have a season subscription to plays over at the Music Center. One ticket, $70. They're doing things up there for free. They're bringing families, many children, many people who would never be going out to the park. And finally, I'm a lifelong or long-term member of the Sierra Club, but I just don't agree with them on this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Feinstein.
Thank you.
Barbara Ferris?
Thank you so much for hearing us today. I'm going to restrict myself to actual factual things stemming from the HCM granting of the status of the HCM to Griffith Park. Since that is cited in the appeal, I would like to just read 3 brief statements from that appeal, from the HCM document. Here's what it says on the natural features and wilderness area. It says, although it is difficult to delineate precise boundaries for the park's natural features, patterns of development from the period of significance allow some guidance to distinguish the open space areas from sections of the park that have a higher concentration of buildings, structures, and associated use. Then later on in that paragraph it says, therefore, it does not appear that the natural features of the park, the undeveloped open space areas, are exclusive and segregated from the built environment of the park. Then under operational, it says the identification of the natural features as character-defining contributing elements by the HCM designation does not preclude construction activity, landscape work, or other types of projects from taking place in this area. We ask you to please deny the appeal and uphold the Commission's ruling and the staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferris. Michelle Black will be followed by William Scott Hanlon and Lucinda Phillips.
Michelle Black here again on behalf of appellants. We believe Recreation and Parks approval of the Performing Arts Center project based on an MND and not an EIR violates CEQA. Because the project has been located in the historic old zoo area and adjacent to sensitive habitat, doesn't have to be in it to be a problem. The project will have significant impacts on historic resources, biological resources, and the recreational values that the MND does not acknowledge or mitigate. I'm going to stick to bio because I'm short on time. But the old zoo area is very important to nocturnal wildlife, including several species of bats that are California species of special concern. Although the M&D admitted, and I quote, noises generated during nighttime performances would disrupt the feeding of bat species, it concluded that no impacts would occur because performances would be periodic and temporary. There are no limits in the project on how often performances can be, and so there is no guarantee that they are really just periodic. And if it's used nightly, over time, you get to a point where bats aren't going to come back, they're going to abandon the area, and that is bad for a species that is already imperiled by habitat loss. Thank you.
Thank you. William Scott Hanlon.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'd like to just stick really to the issue at hand, which is whether the Parks and Recreation Committee acted sensibly in approving these projects and moving them forward. Throughout this rather lengthy process, today's proponents of the appeal have had every opportunity to make their case on the merits. They've not made that case to the stewards of the park, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and they aren't making that case very well today. Some of these people love Griffith Park so much that if they had their way, no one would be able to use it. It is sensible for Griffith Park to be used and useful to the public. These projects move that agenda forward. Thanks.
Thank you. And Lucinda Phillips will be followed by Marianne Dodge and Mary Button.
Thank you for listening to us today. My name is Lucinda Phillips. I am supporting the appeal for the Performing Arts Center. A full EIR needs to be conducted before this center is allowed to move forward and adversely impact the area. This is a rich wildlife area with rare flora and fauna. This stage apparently is only going to be used a few times a year. So how is that going to be regulated, maintained, and with adequate security? We already have an overburdened Recreation and Parks Department. There will be a full stage there inviting unauthorized concerts and performances. I'm also very concerned about the fire risk in the area. We've had a lot of concern about fires this year, particularly in past years, and we've had a fire, and multiple usage of this stage by unauthorized and authorized people can result in great fire risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dodge.
I'm Marian Dodge, Friends of Griffith Park. I support the appeal because the project requires an EIR. City Council needs to comply with CEQA to avoid a repeat of the ruling handed down by Judge Goodman on July 14th regarding the city's resolution on the Hollywood Community Plan. Page 13, the judge stated that it makes it clear respondents, that's the city, expressly and unequivocally adopted the change to overrule and supersede this court's judgment and writ. Respondents appear also to have omitted from their consideration certain provisions of the Charter of the City of Los Angeles. On page 15, it is state law that establishes the requirement. Page 16, the court elects to address this matter at this time because respondents' actions strongly indicate their view that they do not intend to comply with state law or the orders issued by this court. City Council must respect the requirements of state law in its own city charter. City Council's failure to comply with state law in this case cost the taxpayers $1.75 million.
Thank you. Mary Button will be followed by Jerry Hans and Leonora Gershman-Pitts.
I am familiar with the area of the old zoo and have great respect for this protected wilderness area. On Tuesday, January 27, 2009, the LA City Council voted unanimously 15-0 to approve Griffith Park as a city historic cultural monument. It was a very wise decision. The old zoo has suffered since then. This October will mark the 5th consecutive year of the Haunted Hayride, a month-long event which draws thousands of attendees into the old zoo area. The event has grown in numbers and has expanded its footprint each year. No EIR was done. This past June, the Great Horror Camp Out was introduced to the area. Hundreds of tents were set up for 2 nights, June 6th and 7th. Guests paid to have the bejesus scared out of them. And what impacts did this nocturnal event have on the wildlife? Again, no EIR was done. I realize we cannot turn back the hands of time, but that being the case, it is imperative a full EIR be conducted now before the Performing Arts Center at a cost of $5 million is allowed to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Hans?
Jerry Hans, Friends of Griffith Park. Transformations at the old zoo have happened slowly over the last decade, but that does not excuse it from environmental review that's complete and review that offers up mitigation and protects and sustains the ecology of the park. Adverse impacts on the area, such as those caused by a haunted hayride and the Great Horror Campout, should not be used as an excuse for a continuum of the same into the future. On the contrary, the proposed project should become even further scrutinized for cumulative effects. The old zoo is gradually becoming a premier nighttime event center. The fact that it is a wonderful place does not mean that it's appropriate in the context of the wilderness area. Events and projects are being rationalized based upon others and without proper environmental review. The other slippery slope is the project itself, which started out as just a platform. The old zoo is a picnic area, yes, but it is the confluence where 2 major natural canyons intersect and the old zoo is abutted on 3 sides with native habitat. I'm optimistic that Griffith Park can continue to be a biodiverse gem in the middle of a large growing city, but only if we value and carefully protect our native habitat and wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hans. Ms. Pitts will be followed by Javi Moreno and David Melville.
Hi, my name is Leonora Gershman-Pitts. I am a board member of the Independent Shakespeare Company. I'm also a commissioner of the City of Los Angeles, serving on the Rent Adjustment Commission. Thank you for your recent approval of my appointment. I also served as the local volunteer neighborhood oversight committee member throughout the process of the designing of the stage. And I'm here, you've probably guessed, to speak against the appeal. I love Griffith Park with all my heart. I consider it my second home. I'm raising my children in that park. And you will never find better stewards than the Independent Shakespeare Company for this space. They love it probably just as much as I do, if not more. And if you come to a show, you will see in the audience and on the stage the cross-section of Los Angeles. It is just as colorful and multicultural, beautiful and funny and bright and enlightening as the city itself. So I strongly urge that you reject these appeals. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Javi Moreno. I'm a native Angelino, born and raised in Boyle Heights, Roosevelt graduate. As I mentioned, a couple months when we were awarded by the City Council from losing friends to gang violence, to being held hostage to gangs and drugs, and something that could have left me behind bars or in the grave, I jumped on stage from an audience member to an actor on stage along with Independent Shakespeare Company. This festival is Los Angeles. It's every corner from San Pedro to Van Nuys, from Venice to Borough Heights. Over this year, we have introduced thousands and thousands every weekend of youth to Shakespeare and to the Old Zoo, including myself, who's a native Angelino. I was introduced to the Old Zoo by the Independent Shakespeare Company, and I'm just here to ask you to deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Melville will be followed by Daniel Schwartz and Ian Hamilton.
Hello, I'm David Melville. I'm the Managing Director of Independent Shakespeare Company. The Old Zoo is not a wilderness area. It is an old zoo. An area that was developed and had about 2 million visitors every year. We currently play to about, Independent Shakespeare Company and Symphony in the Glen combined, probably about 45,000 people each year. That's a fraction of that. We occupy the site for over 3 months. It's ongoing. It's happening. If there's any environmental impact, it's happening now. An environmental impact report is not going to affect that at all. Any impact is happening right now. If this structure is built, it will actually help us reduce any impact, because we will have less that we'll have to do every night, dragging cables and doing all that kind of stuff. So obviously, I'm against this appeal. I'd like to also say that you have 3 weeks left to catch Taming of the Shrew and 12th Night. Please let us know. We'll save you a really good blanket or a beach chair. Cheers.
Thank you. Dan Schwartz.
I'm Dan Schwartz, 30-year resident of the neighborhood. I'm totally against the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Hamilton will be followed by Anne-Marie Modla and Dr. Fiona Nagel.
My name is Ian Hamilton. I have lived in Silver Lake my entire life, and I have been seeing the Independent Shakespeare Company since, I don't know, for like 7 or 8 years, since they were in Barnsdall. And I've followed them to Griffith Park, and I even interned there this summer. And I know that we get upwards of 2,000 people some nights on the weekend, and ISC has really increased the availability for people to see shows, because I know that I know these shows very well since having watched them. But despite the amount of people that come every day, I know that we make an extreme effort at the end of the night to pick up all the trash and keep the area clean for the next night and for anyone who wants to visit there. And in terms of encroaching on the wildlife, the area is already developed, and it's not that we would be clearing trees or anything, because it is a field that the stage is already on that is there every year. So.
Thank you. And I have a question for you. Are you going to become an actor, or are you an actor?
Yeah, I am actually. So.
You're going to be very good.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie Modla, followed by Dr. Fiona Nagel.
I'm Fiona.
Oh, Fiona. I think we don't have then Ms. Modla yet. Okay, come on up. Go ahead, Doctor. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. I had forgotten that. My apologies. Dr. Fiona Nagel.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Fiona Nagel, PhD in Conservation Biology and Environmental Dispute Resolution. So my specialty is finding the middle ground between all sides. I've gone through the initial study, the mitigated net deck. I've also looked through all the letters and so forth that came with the appeals. I am a native Angelino. I am absolutely in favor of keeping as much wilderness and naturalized areas as possible in Griffith Park as well as throughout the city. However, I am not actually convinced that this particular project is a huge significant impact in this area, on this particular site. 3 things I want to say about that. Especially in the lower part of this project, where most of the ADA improvements would be made.
In fairness to everyone else, we'll give you 30 more seconds.
Thank you. Most of the ADA improvements would be made in an area that is already highly disturbed, and I would love to see it actually cleaned up. Second, what I'm hearing a lot of the concerns of the appellants is about future impacts based on unknowns of how much this area would be used by other groups. This is not an EIR issue, this is a permit issue. In that case, you put certain stipulations, recommendations, and so forth on the use of this particular performing arts center, not on the entire area, nor on the building of the area even. And third, hang on. Go to 4. Well, that's all. Unless there has been a change in the project itself, in the site, in the construction of the building of itself, in that case, then I think that should be resubmitted if the plans have changed, and an addendum put on the neg deck, on the initial study, rather than a full EIR.
Thank you, Dr. Nagel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, at this time, I'd like to bring City Attorney Tim McMill-Williams up, back with Kathy Santo Domingo and Neil Drucker, for questions or concerns or clarification that my colleagues may have.
So a question, we got this handed to us. Are there any trees there that are challenged right now that have to be removed at all, regardless of what we do?
Councilman, if this is for the...
Someone told me there's a big sycamore that should come down for health reasons. Is that true? I see Laura Bettafield here.
In the Crystal Springs ball field area, there are approximately 46 trees that do need to go down. And
do any trees need to go down regardless if we do anything? Someone told me that this Recreation Parks spotted a tree that may be ill and may be of liability. Is Laura still here?
We don't have any confirmation of that, Councilman. I haven't received any report from staff of any trees that are ill at this point.
All right. You have questions, or I wanted to say something? Members, thank you, and the public, thank you very much. I know it's, I did take my daughter last night to where I was in 1966, and I saw Paul McCartney, and he did sing along in Winding Road last night in Elysian Park, where in Elysian Park they took Bishop Canyon, which was a landfill, and created ball diamonds, working with sanitation. And my first objective years ago was working with people who are not here now, but I think are still living, but involved. I took them to Toyon Canyon, because I wanted to do what they did in Elysian Park, Mr. O'Farrell, and do it in Toyon Canyon. And I worked with the Sierra Club that you mentioned earlier, and I worked with others, but they did want to be in the Toyon Canyon area, which has 42 acres of land, and I was going to use sanitation money to make it nice. I want something real nice for the young people who use Griffith Park, whatever they come from the city. So then we went down to Crystal Springs. Unfortunately, my chief field man, Roy Fitzpatrick, who played baseball in Griffith Park, has died, and he's in heaven, but he was the pusher of this. And then as time went on, other objectives take place. Exhibit A, members, I just want to show this to you right here. All those yellow tabs, that's over 300 acres that in the last 11 years, 12 years, I put together. Thank you, everybody out there who supported it. And open space for Griffith Park. Over 300 acres, including 158 just completed this year with land acquired from Forest Lawn. When I first started with the city nearly 40 years ago, there was a project at Glassell Park, and they decided it's better to build the building than to get the land. Well, if you go to Glassell Park, there's a big public storage there. Wouldn't you rather have fields there right now, Mitch, than that public storage? No offense to anybody from public storage.
That's the whole saga that goes back to 1999 that I was
involved in. It goes back to 1976 when I started. And I made a commitment. If I was elected, I'm going after the land first. And I spent most of all my time trying to get the land, but at the same time, concurrently doing this ball field situation. In 1955, they built the Golden State Freeway. I have 7 brothers. It displaced the place where my brothers played. I played in Lemon Grove Park at Western and Melrose. And many of the things that I announced when I ran for office in 2001 is to get this open space, but also get youth recreation. And you mentioned you have 17 fields in Mar Vista area. Many other parts of the city, especially in the central part of the city, do not have sports fields because the park's city grew so fast. But in 1947, there was this plan, and thank you for those who helped to put up, and everyone that looks at this is Crystal Springs right there. But since that time, the park used to go to the river. Now the freeway came and doesn't take that opportunity that's there. So over the years, in working, trying to make do with this here, and the time that took place there is that several fields were taken away. Where Mr. Hans lives, you're in the Oaks area, correct, Mr. Hans? There used to be a field in the area where the Lake Hollywood is, in that area. And then over by Vermont Canyon, there was a field, one field, right there, service yard, right by Boy Scout Road. And in Commonwealth Service Yard, there was a field that people played on. I played on them. But over the course of time, people come and go, and there's no kids anymore. It's all older people in Los Feliz. But now there's a youth movement. Many children, and also children from around several locations that they looked at. In North Atwater, I looked at North Atwater, but also with the Secretary of the Interior, Mayor Villaraigosa, Mitch, when you were Eric Garcetti's top field man, you created a natural zone there. They wanted to go natural as opposed to sports fields. And I said, okay, sports fields in Crystal Springs, we have a clubhouse there, we won't have a sewer charge or ought to build all that, but we have all that infrastructure right there. So I've worked with everybody over the years. First thing though I got is the land. And I did get an email later this afternoon before I came up here. Thank you very much for the open space. You haven't seen me in a while, but I'm doing just fine. P22 loves the open space on the west end of the park.
Is there a paw print?
That's a joke, Jerry. I want you to smile a little. There you go, Jerry. There will be another day for all of us, but I think what we find here, Mr. O'Farrell, is an opportunity for recreation and parks and Pote Field, which was used in the 1969 movie MASH as the football field. There were the fences were put up when City College had baseball. City College has no more athletics now, but it's a very busy used athletic complex. Also, I made a decision as a council member to convert Riverside totally to soccer, which is a very active sport. And also, I've fought with Mayor Reardon, who was a commissioner then, to stop a water park at the 26 acres, now known as the John Ferraro Fields, which we're going to hopefully upgrade in that. So in all this effort for the sports fields, I think it's real important that these sports fields are there in our park for people to use them. In addition to that, there's several locations, including Western Canyon, Commonwealth Canyon, and other places, even there in Crystal Springs, that we've identified to have replacements, Claire Darden. So you'd be happy to know there'll be many more picnic benches for people to come and move trash cans out of the area there. So the opportunity is there for others to picnic. It's a great joy for all of that. That is Crystal Springs. And now the old zoo. They call it the old zoo because we had a new zoo. And the oldest zoo was in your Sealing Zoo in the 1st District by East Lake Park, which is Lincoln Park. So important space. There's very few times where you absolutely throw a touchdown like in one moment. And in this particular case, the overpopularity of the Shakespeare Theater and the work that they were doing at Barnsdall, I was able to, and others, is that correct, shift them to the old zoo, which is abandoned, and guys from, where'd you go, to Roosevelt? Guys, not from Roosevelt, because I need your vote, but from Garfield, would go to the park and hang out, and it was a negative use. Now Shakespeare is there. Shakespeare is there, and it's absolutely a joy for me as a public official to see thousands of people come to see Shakespeare, to enjoy it, to lay in blankets there, families, all the way. It's very special. So these two projects, by the way, I believe some of this money comes from the Performing Arts Center that we never rebuilt when it burned down in the 80s. So it's a long time all these things come. Symphony in the Glen, which is so special to us, so historic. I think everybody can win. If there's issues there, let the Board of Park Commissioners take care of the issues as far as permit process. But I think these are well thought out projects, and I ask for your support on this as I try to serve the city of Los Angeles in the best way possible for all. Because there are some people who would not like to see another foot in Griffith Park. And I hike every day in Griffith Park, and when I started in 1978, I just want to let you know, there were 5 cars in the parking area. Now it's nearly full, because hundreds of people are finding their way to the public space that Jenkins Griffith gave to us, which I thank him every day for. Our greatest gift has been Griffith Park. So with that, I just, as the council person in the district who tried to work with everybody yesterday I listened to everybody today and hope to work with everybody tomorrow, ask for a rejection of this, and go forth to council with that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Colleagues, any other comments?
Move to approve that.
Mr. Cedillo?
Gil,
looking at the map. I'm happy to support my colleague. I think it's real simple. There's a purpose here, right? There's a CEQA purpose, and there doesn't seem to be anything that would compel us to disturb what's gone on. I didn't see anything compelling, dramatic or significant. It's not like you're putting a shopping center in there or a big mall or a tall building or anything like that. These two uses seem to be consistent with the vision and the purpose of the park, as it was handed to us, right? The interests of the public. And in particular, there's a lot of kind of statements that seem contradictory or ironic. People will say, well, we need more green space. And implicit in that is green space is to be utilized, not to be observed, but to be utilized for hiking or running or golf or baseball or maybe theater. And so when you say we need more green space, you can't then argue that we shouldn't have a baseball field, because that's the exact point and purpose of saying we need more green space. You say we need more green space, then for what? You're not going to lose weight looking at it, right? When you say we have obesity and we have challenges to our health, you can just paint it on a wall if that's the way it worked. It doesn't work like that. You have to go there, and you have to hike, or you have to go for a walk or a jog or play baseball. And so baseball is one of the activities suggested here, and so it's a fine activity. It's clear that with the old zoo, it's already been utilized in a public manner. 2 million people used to visit there. So you can't say, well, we're going to have people there. We already had people there, and so we've already been there and said that's acceptable. Now we're going to have people come for a different purpose. Now, you would think that probably those who, as we all do, support animals' rights would say this is a better purpose. This is a greater purpose. Theater for the public, free theater for people who don't have access, is a wonderful alternative purpose than having a zoo, and that's what we're doing. And so it seems that in both proposals, you're both consistent with the public purpose and, in fact, bringing value added to the purpose. You're not frustrating it, but you're actually executing the reason that we do have this park. And so I'm happy to support the motion to deny.
Seeing as there is a motion for item 2 to approve the Department of Recreation and Parks recommendations to deny the appeal without objections, this denial of appeal is approved for item 2. Item 3, there's also been a move to deny the appeal and approve the Department of Recreation and Parks recommendations without objection. Item 3 is also approved. Thank you. And that concludes the items. We do have one general public comment, and from Mr. Herman.
Is that 1 minute or 2 minutes?
1 minute.
Well, as you all heard, it's a success, right? We got rid of the ballparks, and we get to keep our open space of parks for people who can enjoy it, relax, and take the weight of this burden of the city away from us, because it's the only escape we have. So, addressing this issue, I'm glad and thank all the people who participated in item 2 and spoke up to save our recreational areas as a park and not that as a facility to incorporate more concrete and more gates and more unappropriate services that we can't use a park for relaxation, hiking, biking, and sitting and reading and playing on blankets and picnic tables. So thank you, Mr. Gilbert Cedillo, for your excellent decision on that. And hopefully in council chambers tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday, I'll be there and we can all conduct our city business. Hoorah.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.